You'll probably notice that inside the Floriani software that there are 3 different types of satin stitches that you can use. We have the satin, we have the classic satin, and we have the steel stitch. Each one of these functions a little bit different, and they each have a purpose. And sometimes it's difficult to know which one should I use. And so in this little exercise right here, you'll notice I have a bunch of different shaped objects, and I wanted to show you when I would use each and every one of these. You'll see that this swirl is a defined width object, meaning that the width of the line does not change. Whenever I see a defined width object, I automatically think, okay, I'm going to use the steel stitch, because that is exactly what it creates. It creates a uniform width satin stitch. So when I select it, let's go ahead and let's digitize this swirl here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to select my steel stitch. Whenever you're digitizing with the steel stitch, you're creating it like you would a run stitch. So I'm going to come in here, plot the first point. I'm going to come over here, left mouse click, and now I'm going to hold down Control as I click around this object. You'll notice that when I'm going around the tighter corners, I'm going to have to click more close to the last object in order to get it to follow this curve well. But as I get going, I can space it out a little bit more. My little clicks to get through it a little bit faster. You'll notice that it's going to curve the line around when I hold down the Control button on the keyboard as I'm left mouse clicking. The steel stitch is a very handy tool. Anytime you have a uniform width object, this is the one that you want to use. There's a few different advantages of it, and we will explore those as well. There's different things that you're able to do with the steel stitch that you can't do with either of the other satin stitches, as far as converting them into other stitches. So it's a really neat tool. It has a lot of flexibility, and you'll find that you'll use it a lot when you're outlining objects with the satin stitch, because it's easy to create. You create it like a run stitch. When you get to the end, you just right mouse click and it creates the stitches. And you'll notice that it is quite a bit wider than what I was working with, and let's go ahead and select it, and you'll see we're going to go over all the editing features available for it. You'll see that up in here the width of it is selected at 3 millimeters, and so that's why it's a pretty thick object. But we will get into editing here in a second. Let me go to fit. So we created that. Anytime you want a uniform width item, you'll want to utilize the steel stitch. Now let's go and let's look at this object over here. Whenever you see something and you're trying to create a satin stitch, and you'll notice that one side is quite a bit different than another side. A lot of times I look at that and if I do the classic satin stitch, it is like a point counterpoint, meaning you start on this side, you click, and you go back and forth to create the line. Anytime I see a straight line on one side and like curves on the other, I like to utilize the satin stitch, because on the satin stitch, the first option, you go and you define one side of the object, you right mouse click and do the other. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and create this structure. So I'm going to start here on the left side, and I'm going to do the bottom part, and then we'll come back from the top. So I'm going to click right here, left mouse click, I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard to kind of create a little curve right there. I'm going to just a regular left mouse click. The reason I'm left mouse clicking again right here is anytime you want to start doing a curve, you'll want to drop another stitch right after the last one. So now when I go in and hit Control as I click around this, you'll notice that it does it nice and smooth. And what I'll show you is I'll go and just hold down Control now, and then last one I dropped a little stitch right here. Watch what happens if I just hit Control and click. it will start curving the previous line. So I'm going to go to backspace, and now I'm going to drop a little stitch right here, and now I'm going to hold down Control as I go around this object, and you'll see how it doesn't cause that other stitch to curve. So it's just important to know and to play around with that so that you know how to utilize it. And again, I'm going to drop a little stitch, hold down Control, and I'm going to go to right here, because this is like basically the finishing of this entire side. Goes to right there. Now when I know that I've got one side done, notice that my cursor is kind of a dotted line, but when I right mouse click, I'm letting this software know, and I just right mouse clicked, and you see how the lines are a lot thinner, closer together. I'm letting the software know that I'm ready to go to the next side. So now I can start with the next side. I can click, and let me go and get around this side really quick. I'm just going to come down all the way over here, drop a little stitch, Control, and we're going to go to right here. And then now I'm basically done. I've gone and done both sides. The software will automatically fill in the ends, and so I'm going to right mouse click to apply the stitches. Now you'll notice as I was digitizing this, I didn't do a very good job of keeping it kind of uniform, and it's really easy to edit and get these back to where they're more straight up and down. Sometimes when you're working with structures like this, it'll do great and it'll do it right away. Some other times it might require you to do a little bit of editing, and that is the only disadvantage of utilizing this particular stitch type, is that when you're going around you have a lot of curves on one side and fewer on the other. Sometimes it will create more curved stitches, but I wanted to show you so that you knew and you were aware of that as well. As you can see, I kind of straightened these up a little bit. I could have, straightened them a little bit more, but if I right mouse click now, you'll see that it is following that structure quite nicely. So that is the regular satin stitch. And I'll show you the differences if I was doing this with the classic satin, because again this has a straight line and then it has these curves on the top. So let's go to the classic satin stitch tool, and this one, like I said, is different. It's point counterpoint. You go back and forth through the design instead of doing all of one side and then come back with the next. You do point counterpoint. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to left mouse click right here, I'm going to left mouse click right there, and because I have this little jump right here, I'm going to go ahead and click another one right here and then right here, and now I can come over all the way to where this structure is. And this is where it gets a little bit trickier when you're utilizing this kind of stitch. I'm going to go ahead and click right here, and then now I'm going to hold down Control when I click this next one, and I'm not holding down Control down at the bottom, only up at the top. You can see it kind of is, it's a little bit trickier to do, and part of it's because you can't really see up and down right here, and so this is why I tend to not utilize this stitch. You'll notice that I didn't drop a little stitch right there. I need to drop a little stitch before I start holding down Control. So now I can hold down Control as I'm doing this stitch here. So I'm just going point, counterpoint. I can hold down Control now. Just going through this structure. See, now I can cheat a little bit. I can come all the way over to here and click, and then right mouse click, and there's the structure. But you notice I don't have to come back in and edit really the angle lines. I can come in here and straighten these out a little bit, but it really isn't necessary. So that's how you use point counterpoint. to go through a structure. Let's go back, zoom in to fit. Now when I look at a design like this one, this S here, I definitely will want to utilize the point counterpoint. I can do it both ways, and we'll go ahead and do it both ways. Let's go to the Satin Stitch, and I'm going to define the one side and come back and do the other. So I'm going to left mouse click, hold down Control on my keyboard as I go around this object here. So I'm holding down the Control key on my keyboard as I'm left mouse clicking. And when I get to the end of the structure right here, I'm going to right mouse click because now I need to do the other side. So I'm going to right mouse click, and then now I just let the software know that I'm ready to go to the next side. So I'll hold down Control now as I go around this. We'll get all the way around to the end. And then I'm going to right mouse click when I have that done. And you'll notice that it actually does a pretty good job going around this corner for the S. And for a beginner, this is probably easier to do this route of just defining one side and then doing the other. You can see that there's a couple places that I might modify slightly just to get it to flow a little bit better. But overall, it did a pretty good job. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to show you using the classic satin. Using the classic satin, you kind of have to think in the terms of angles to see, what's the best way to keep this to continue flowing. So let's go ahead and I'm left mouse click, and remember I'm going point counterpoint and drop in one. Now I'm going to hold down Control as I do the rest of these. So I'm trying to get it to where I can, follow the curve. And you want to minimize the harshness of a curve as much as possible, because the software doesn't, when you're showing out a design, it doesn't like to do hard angles. More straight here. It's kind of giving you an idea of how you would kind of come around these corners here. And when I get to the end, I'm going to right mouse click, and it's going to create that curve. So you can utilize either function for going around a letter like an S. You'll see when I hit the shape tool, everywhere that I clicked is actually where the angle lines are placed in the design. In this object right here, you'll notice that it is actually kind of a uniform width object. It's just kind of going around, and it has curves and stuff. So let's go ahead and, because it is uniform in width, let's go ahead and take this steel stitch and let's go ahead and try to create this object. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to plot a point right there so I can hold down Control and click right here to create that curve. I'm going to left mouse click right here. So you do have to plot that little small point afterward before you start doing a curve, just to make sure that it doesn't affect that straight line that you were using. Click right here. Now I can just go all the way over to here. I'm going to drop this little stitch right here. Now I'm going to hold down Control and go around. You'll notice that I'm going in the middle of this column here. The reason for that is because I know that it's going to apply stitches. This is going to be the center for those stitches. So quickly I'm just going around this object, jump all the way over to here, And because it is a steel stitch, I've got to close this off. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to left mouse click right here. And I'm going to right mouse click when I'm done. And you'll see that it just created that structure in a uniform manner. Let's go ahead and zoom out to fit. So you can see we just digitized each of those objects. And that's how you utilize each of the 3 different satin stitches. So you want to take time to play with them. Utilize the lessons inside of the workbook. There are files that it will have you open up and digitize. It's important to get comfortable using each stitch type. And in this lesson we're digitizing using the standard digitizing method.